Good morning and welcome to WellSprings. If you're joining us here in Bell Hall, please make your way to a seat. My name is Julie. My pronouns are she and her. And I want to say Happy New Year in case I didn't get to see you last Sunday when we had our special service. Today we're going to sing some songs presented by the WellSprings Quartet. We're a little bit light today, but we're going to do our best to share some music with you. So please rise, whether in body or in spirit, and join us on Can't Buy Me Love, led by Rodney.
Can't buy me love, love, can't buy me love. I'll buy you a diamond ring, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. I'll give you all the love, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. I don't care too much for money, money can't buy me love. I'll give you a diamond ring, my friend, if it makes you feel true. I'll give you all the love I have that I got to give to you. I don't care too much for money, money can't buy me love, can't buy me love. Everybody tells me so, can't buy me love. No, 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 no. Say you don't want no diamond ring and you'll be satisfied. Tell me that you want the kind of things that money just can't buy. I don't care too much for money, money can't buy me love, can't buy me love. Everybody tells me so, can't buy me love. No, 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 no. Tell me, buy you a diamond ring if it makes you feel alright. Come on, give you all I got, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. I don't care too much for money, money can't buy me love, can't buy me love. Love can't buy me love.
Please take a seat. Melissa will be leading us on our next song, one of my favorites and maybe yours, Life Uncommon.
Don't worry, mother, it'll be all right. And don't worry, sister, say your prayers and sleep tight. And it'll be fine, lover of mine. It'll be just fine. And lend your voices only to sounds of freedom. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. Fill your lives with love and bravery, and we shall lead a life uncommon. I've heard your anguish, I've heard your hearts cry out. We are tired, we are weary, but we aren't worn out. Set down your chains till only faith remains. Set down your chains and lend your voices only to sounds of freedom. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. Fill your lives with love and bravery, and we shall lead a life uncommon. There are plenty of people who pray for peace, but if praying were enough, it would have come to be. Let your words enslave no one, and the heavens will hush themselves to hear our voices ring out clear with sounds of freedom, sounds of freedom. Come on, you unbelievers, move out of the way, 'cause there is a new army coming, and we are armed with faith. Set down your chains till only faith remains. Set down your chains and lend our voices only to sounds of freedom. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. Fill your lives with love and bravery, and we shall lead. And lend your voices only to sounds of freedom. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. Fill your lives with love and bravery, and we shall lead a life uncommon.
Please rise, whether in body or in spirit, for our third song in the first song block, True Colors.
You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged. Oh, I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it, and the darkness inside you makes you feel so small. But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Show me a smile then. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, you call me up because you know I'll be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow. If this world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, you call me up because you know I'll be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors your true colors are beautiful, like a rainbow.
Welcome to WellSprings, both to those here in person and to everyone joining us online this morning. My name is Adam. My pronouns are he and him, and I am joyful and humbled to be leading your worship service today. Each week when we gather, we light a chalice as a symbol of our spiritual heritage as Unitarian Universalists. It is not just a symbol of what is past, but what is present, the divine spark, that inner light that shines in the heart of each of our lives. As we light this chalice, may we share our light with each other and the world. We've asked Beth Trandall, our incoming office coordinator, to come forward to light our chalice today. And after they've done so, we'll say these words together. And together we say, we light a chalice to celebrate the path lit before us, the warmth of kindness that shines from within us, and the radiance of wisdom that is shared between us and never goes out. Good morning. Our mission here at WellSprings is to be a community charged full with the charge of the soul. Today is the start of our new message series, Making a Life. Our relationship to work can be complicated. Human beings long to be useful, to see the value and meaning behind what we do in the world. Yet we know on some level that we're not just here to earn a living. The poet Maya Angelou said, "Making a living is not the same as making a life." In this series, our preachers, with some help from some Wellspringers, I think, will explore our experiences with work and examine what it truly means to make a life. I tend to get the microphone when something significant is happening in my life. I don't know, it just seems to be the way the world works, I guess. And fitting with that, I'd just like to mention that my father would have turned 71 today if pancreatic cancer wouldn't have taken him from us 4 years ago. So please hug those loved ones, y'all. I know there's some other folks out here today and listening who've lost somebody important to them recently as well. So my condolences to you as well. My soul got a charge this week as I had an opportunity to devote some more of my time to the kitchen at dinner. Typically not my area many times a week as my wife handles the family's cuisines with regular frequency. But do you have those meals that always get those memories flooding back to you? The meal that does this for me that I really enjoy preparing is veal or chicken cutlets and ravioli. Not just because I enjoy those things, but because I was introduced to cutlets through my wife's grandmother. I grew up in South Central Pennsylvania to a family who does home cooking, not Italian-style cutlets. Now, my introduction was probably the summer of 2000 at the first visit to my wife's extended family. I was at the first family dinner. Cutlets, ravioli, green beans, fresh Italian bread, tomato with mozzarella, and more. As I put things on my plate, I could feel the eyes digging into me. It's the first time the boyfriend has been here, so let's make this as awkward as possible. I fill my plate and I take a bite of green beans. It must have been all over my face. They were cold, intentionally cold. I was fully expecting a warm bean, but alas, my mouth and face were chilled. I look up and I hear, "Adam, is there something wrong with the beans?" Well, they're cold. Yes, you don't like cold beans? I just thought that they were hot, that's all, or something like that, I probably said. Next up, the bread. In my house, we always have butter on the table when we have bread. But this isn't a down-home dining room table. This is an Italian family's table. Do you have any butter? The knives hit the plates like a sonic boom. Why do you need butter? For the bread? Butter for your bread? So I've already lost credibility on the beans. Now I've sunk even further on the bread. We have 2 strikes at 'em. Let's try to keep this together. But then I taste a cutlet, and I could almost hear the angels blowing trumpets. My mouth glistening, methinks I heard the god Zeus chuckling from on high. They changed me. Much later, much after that event, they would keep me around, thank goodness. I would go to her grandmother so that she could teach me how to make them. It was an experience, and we had so much fun. I think of her constantly when I make them, and I get excited to serve them up to my family and watch them get gobbled up. It was a rough start to my relationship with cutlets, but I now enjoy every aspect from acquiring the ingredients, including local ravioli, sauce made at the business of family friends, and then the patience needed to put them all together and cook them to perfection, meaning just a little crispy around the edges. Molto bene. Molto bene, very good. This morning, I'd like to especially welcome any newcomers, especially our new office coordinator, Beth Trandle. Can we please give Beth a warm welcome? Thank you, Beth. Now, if this is your first or second time with us, we are so glad you are here. I hope you'll fill out a connection card so that you can learn more about us and start to introduce yourself too. If you're watching from home, there's a link to the online connection card in the description below the video. If you're here in person, you can fill out a connection card on your phone through our WellSprings app. See any of our greeters this morning to help you get connected. Greeters, could we raise our hands in the back? Yay, there we are, thank you. If you'd like to interact with folks who are joining online this morning, there's a live chat available on YouTube. And you can always find more information about today's service, as well as upcoming events and news, through our WellSprings app or by scanning the QR code available on the welcome table. Tiffany, unfortunately, could not attend this morning. She's been coordinating the WellSprings shirts, but the WellSprings shirts are in. And she will be getting them to you over the next few weeks. Also, next week is Paula, our current office coordinator's last day with us, and there's a card in the back for you to sign and send her well wishes. We also have a few other pieces of news we want to highlight this weekend, and for that, I'll turn it over to our membership and communications coordinator, Jessica Heichel.
Hi WellSprings, my name is Jessica Heichel with your announcements for this week. Up first, our new message series starts today. It's called Making a Life, and we're talking a bit about how we balance work with everything else. So to that end, Reverend Lee has put out a request to hear from you about what you do for a living and how it fits into your life. There's some more information about that in today's order of service, so take a look when you get a moment, and if you're interested in speaking to Reverend Lee about what you do and sharing that with the congregation, we'd love to hear from you. Second announcement, today is your next opportunity to learn a little bit more about WellSprings membership. That's happening right after service today, and there's a little more information about that in today's order of service. This is a WellSprings 1.0 class, and it's open to anyone who wants to learn more. Finally, I'm going to throw you over to a special announcement from the setup and support team. Hi WellSprings, my name's Jessica Heichel with a special video this week about the setup and support team. So whether you are attending in person or whether you watch online, it's pretty evident that we share our space with a school. And while I think everybody grasps that on a logical level, I don't think too many people have had the opportunity to be here either early enough or late enough to see what that means in practical terms. Essentially, when we show up on Sunday mornings, we are showing up to a school. And when we leave on Sunday afternoons, we are leaving a school. But somewhere in the middle of that, we have to turn it into a worship space. And that is accomplished entirely by the setup and support team. Each one of those tables that you walk up to on Sunday morning are set up by them. The tables are stored under the stage all week, along with everything that goes on them. Those are pulled out, set up, and then of course taken back down and put away at the end of service. The wonderful coffee and donuts that we all love so much. That's picked up from a Dunkin' Donuts on 113 and brought in by a volunteer. All those terrific signs that are pointing you in from the road right up to the front door where we have services, those have to be set out and of course taken back down at the end. Our chalice, where we light our candle every week, and indeed even the pulpit, where our ministers share their messages, all have to be set up and taken back down. And this probably sounds like a big job, and it is when there are only 2 people doing it, but I want to show you something really cool. This is time-lapse video of what it looks like when we have lots of people who just happen to stay and help. Check out how fast this goes. Chairs are one of the biggest things that the setup and support team deals with. When they show up, they walk into a room that has approximately 250 chairs set out. They pare it down to about 75 socially distanced chairs for our service, and then of course have to put them all back at the end of the service. With 2 people doing that, that's going to take a long time. With a few more doing it, it really is a snap. Now, volunteering for the setup and support team every single Sunday is a daunting prospect, and that's why it's not what we're asking. We want to hear from people who think they can help out occasionally. Do you think you could help out some Sundays but not others? Great, we want to hear from you. Do you think you could help out 4 or 5 times a year? Great, we want to hear from you. Do you think you could swing by Dunkin' Donuts sometimes on your way in? Great, we want to hear from you. In today's order of service, there's a link that will take you to a form. It's just your name and email address, and all you're saying is that you think you can help out sometimes. Thanks for considering helping out with the setup and support team. The saying really is true that many hands make light work. Thanks everyone, and I will see you next week.
At WellSprings, the foundation of all we do is rooted in the power of connection, of making space in our hearts and in our lives for each other. This is the part of the service where we honor that connection by greeting one another. If you're joining from home, take a moment now to share a greeting in the live chat or maybe say hello in the WellSprings Oasis, our private group on Facebook. For those here in Bell Hall, you might also consider posting on the Oasis group to connect with our community beyond these walls. And a reminder to those of us in the room, please ask before hugging or approaching closely, as some of us are more comfortable with a fist or elbow bump these days. And if you prefer to keep distance from others for any reason, just stay seated, and that'll be our cue to give you a wave from afar. With gratitude for all the ways that we might connect, please greet one another now. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm glad we could get together and make some connections. But we do have our coffee hour afterwards, which takes place right here in Bell Hall after the service. Continue those warm greetings there. And if the weather's not too cold, go ahead and meet out on the patio as well. It's always nice out there. The sun seems to be shining right in when the service is over. I invite you now into our time of generosity, an opportunity to express our gratitude for the ways this spiritual community has an impact on all of our lives. If you feel the value of our WellSprings community right now, we hope that you'll share a gift to sustain us. And if you like, you can use your phone to give from anywhere. Just text WSprings to 73256. Our greeters will be bringing hats around for those who wish to donate by hand, and you can also drop a check or a cash donation into the box. I don't think it's outside. It's on the welcome table. It's over there, right by the doors. Thank you. Thank you for all the ways your gifts support WellSprings, both in time, talent, and funds as well. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Beautiful, thank you. Having shared energy between us and giving beyond us, let's take some time now to reground into the deep and soulful energy that's within us. We do this by doing what is most simple and elemental in our lives. We take a breath, inhaling and exhaling without rush or hurry, breathing in and breathing out. There's nowhere else to go. Nowhere else to be, so let's be here together now as we prepare for our time of mindful silence. We follow these words from Thich Nhat Hanh into our time of meditation. If we want to enter heaven on earth, we need only one conscious step and one conscious breath. Let us cultivate peace and experience presence in this quiet time together. Wherever it is that we are, whatever it is that we are doing, however it is that we are feeling, let us remember that peace and presence are always as close as is our own breath. May this be so for you this moment, may it be so for you this day, and may it be so for you in the days to come, and may it be so for all of us. I'd like to invite our congregation's children to join our staff and volunteers in the back of the room for their time of fellowship and youth spirit, is it meeting in the dining hall just down there across the lawn. It's a short walk, but you may need to send along jackets, etc. And grown-ups, please remember to pick up your children. Thank you. I'll now invite all of the band back on stage for our next song.
Please rise, whether in body or in spirit, for 24 frames.
This is how you make yourself vanish into nothing. This is how you make yourself worthy of the love that she gave to you back when you didn't own a beautiful thing. This is how you make yourself call your mother. This is how you make yourself closer to your brother. Remember small enough to help you sing. You thought God was an architect, now you know he's something like a pipe bomb ready to blow. And everything you build that's all for show goes up in flames. Oh, in 24 frames. This is how you see yourself floating on the ceiling. This is how you help her when her heart stops beating. What happened to the part of you noticed every changing wind? This is how you talk to her when no one else is listening. This is how you help her when the muse goes missing. You vanish so she can go drowning in a dream again. You thought God was an architect, now you know he's something like a pipe bomb ready to blow. And everything you build that's all for show goes up in flames. Oh, in 24 frames. You thought God was an architect, now you know he's something in a black car ready to bow. You made some new friends after the show, but you'll forget their names. Oh, in 24 frames. Oh, in 24 frames.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, it is a joy to be with you today as we start a new message series, as Adam referenced, Making a Life. And as we start that, I want to start with some questions. What did you want to be when you grew up? What do you want to be when you grow up? How many of us remember hearing that question over and over when we were a kid, perhaps asking it over and over to the kids in our lives now? What did you answer? Duncan. You wanted to be happy. Oh, Duncan. There we go. Sandy. A ballerina. Doctor. A Broadway dancer. Magic. All right, 2 Broadway dancers in the room. An architect, like, I love this. A school bus driver, fabulous. And an engineer. I wanted to be all kinds of things when I was little. It was like, because I started reading early, every time I read about something, that was the thing I wanted to be. I did go through much of 2nd grade when we were learning about the dinosaurs, though, wanting to be a paleontologist. Partly, I loved the word paleontologist. I thought finding dinosaurs would be exciting. I also wanted to be an architect for a little while, but I'm not a very good drawer. Teacher was on my list for a long time, a very long time. And for a while, when I was about 13 or 14, I really wanted to be something that, spoiler, doesn't exist, a Baptist nun. The seeds of ministry were planted way back then. But I think so many of us, especially when we're little kids, our idea about work is really constrained by either the people in our lives or what we see in TV or read about in books. When I worked in academic career advising, we would call this the Fisher-Price syndrome. How many of you remember the Fisher-Price little people that were so popular in the 70s and 80s? They still make them, by the way. But the Fisher-Price little people I loved them, but they had little villages and towns, right? And there was a doctor and a nurse and a teacher and bus drivers and policemen and firefighters. And so I remember we didn't have a Fisher-Price playset, but they had it in the kindergarten at my elementary school. And my baby sister is 5 years younger than me. And so I clearly remember being in 5th grade when she was in kindergarten and going in before school and helping her and the little kids play. And I remember one of the little boys would fight over the firefighter. He, like Steve, he was going to be a firefighter. My sister, though, loved the cars and wanted to be a garage attendant, which I thought was fabulous. And I clearly remember there was a little kid who just wanted to be a car when he grew up, which I think is fabulous. And if you ask kids now, there's a slightly broader view of work than there was when I was a kid 40 years ago, when many of you were children. And I know that at least some of the young teenagers in my life, while they will still say things like doctor, or teacher, firefighter, they also say things that did not exist even 20 years ago, like YouTuber, video game designer. The world of work is filled with possibilities and imagination, and we think about it, particularly in our culture, where asking people what they do is acceptable. Small talk. It's not in some places, but it is here. And we think about it because it takes up so much of our time. We spend a lot of hours dedicated to work. And some of that is what we do for a living, the paid work we do. But also, we spend so much time in unpaid work, and I want to think about all of that. The work we do that Adam actually mentioned in his worship leader story, right? The work of cooking and sharing recipes, of making a home and caretaking and building time for family. That is also work that we do. And all of the work, whether it's our paid work or the work that we choose that often is unrecognized or invisible, are pieces of how we make a life. Adam mentioned the poet Maya Angelou. And I say poet, but if you do not know Maya Angelou, who was just a general kick-ass human being, was not only a poet, but she was a dancer and a filmmaker and a producer and an artist and an activist and a mother. And in her long, varied life of doing all kinds of work, she said what she had learned is that making a living is not the same as making a life. And while what we do to make a living is part of making our life, we need to think about how it is not all of it the way we sometimes set it up to be. And so we want to explore what it means to make a life together, what it means when we individually and also collectively come together to make meaning out of the choices we face. It's part of why I think so many of us still come together at church. We seek spiritual communities because we know that in our lives there is something bigger than us, even if we don't actually believe in God or name that bigger than us as God. We know we are connected beyond our own bodies to each other and to the world. I think sometimes about our ancient ancestors, the hunter-gatherers across the world who made time in their life of survival to paint scenes on cave walls as a way of leaving a record, not just of what they did, but of how they made meaning together as a community. And that is why we come together in this spiritual community, to make meaning of how we're making a life. And that's what we want to explore over the next couple of months together. Philosophers and teachers and artists and creatives back since those cave people, have been asking the question of what do we do with our lives? How do we make meaning here? And while we each have to find meaning for ourselves, there are, I think, some essential ingredients that we can explore together when we are answering how do we make a life. Socrates, the ancient, I started to say Egyptian, the ancient Athenian philosopher, he said, an unexamined life is not worth living. And I think that is the first ingredient we need to making a life. We need to examine, to have time to actually reflect on who we are becoming, what our place is in our family and our culture and society. We need that time to reflect. And our modern day philosopher and holy teacher, I will call him that, Parker Palmer, in his beautiful work, all of his work to be honest, but in Let Your Life Speak, he talks about how he is living an examined life by taking time for stillness, to listen to that inner teacher, to make space to hear what that inner teacher is calling him to do. And Palmer walks us through how that has worked for him and how it might work for us, but the key ingredient is that examination, that time for reflection. And actually, when we think about that in relation to work, it is partly why the union movement in this country, more than 100 years ago, was demanding that work conditions change, because the fact is that the majority of people were working 12 and 16-hour days, 6 and 7 days a week in exploitative conditions that gave them no time for reflection, no time to be human. And those conditions, union leader says, were inhumane and immoral because people deserve the time to reflect on who they are and what is important to them. Taking time for that reflection by ourselves, with our families, and when we gather as we do in community, is an important piece of making a life. And then what do we do with that reflection? Because we can sit and think forever. Some of us do. Well, what do we do with it? And that's the other piece. And Parker Palmer also talks about this, as do Buddhist teachings around meditation and mindfulness, which is that when we have time to reflect, then we can recognize what our choices are and be more intentional about our actions. We are so often in our lives, in our everyday moments, in the hustle and bustle, reacting. And when we're constantly reacting and our nervous system is constantly on high alert, we can't reflect and we can't be intentional. So having the time for reflection so we can be intentional and then start to recognize where are the choices that have been made for me and where are the choices I can start to make for myself. It's important for our lives. It's important for what we actually choose to do to make a living that becomes part of how we're making the lives we're making. In career research, and some of you know I mentioned already, so I worked in higher ed and I did academic advising and career counseling. And so much of career research, and some of this research is done obviously pre-pandemic, but I have a feeling it is still really relevant. The primary reason that people in any industry are unhappy in their work is that there's a values misalignment. There is work that they are doing that does not let them express themselves, who we actually are, because it is out of alignment with our core values. And so often, people just don't even recognize that. All they know is that they're unhappy, and maybe they think it's because they have a bad boss or awful shifts, and those things might be true, but the real underlying reason is that their work does not fit who they are. And so no matter what kind of work it is that is making us unhappy, when we look underneath it, what people really need is work that lets them be who they are and live in alignment with their values. That takes intentionality. We have to be intentional about that. And when people are able to have a breathing space to actually recognize the source of that unhappiness, then sometimes what they can do, if they are lucky, if they have good support systems, is to make different and intentional choices. And sometimes that means we choose different work, but sometimes it means we shift our priorities. We shift our energy and we say, I might still need this job, and this job is okay, but I need something else over here that's going to align more with who I am and what matters to me. So maybe we start to volunteer more in our church or our community organizations. Maybe we spend more time with our families. We develop hobbies, old or new, that let us express who we are. And that becomes so much a part of how we make a life, is by choosing with intention what matters to us. Reflection and intentions are important ingredients. And I think a third ingredient into making a life that matters for us is 20 years ago, I would have said you have to follow your passion. But then I heard an amazing, I think it was a TED Talk by writer Elizabeth Gilbert. And she said, no, we have to stop telling people to follow their passions. People need to follow their curiosity. If you can let go of passion and follow your curiosity just might lead you to passion. And I thought about that when I first heard it a few years ago, and I thought, yes. And then I realized that's actually what I had done in my life. I hadn't followed my passions. If I had, I would have been a Baptist nun. But that passion changed, and that's part of why following passion isn't always the best advice, because sometimes we actually don't know what we're passionate about until we try something and experience it. And that's where following curiosity is a healthier ingredient. When I started college, I was invited in my very first semester by my advisor to take a theater class. I needed to fill out my schedule, and she gave me all kinds of good reasons, and I was 18 and knew nothing about college, so I just did what she told me. Also, I was curious about it. I didn't know you could study theater. And I fell in love with it. I made amazing friends. It became part of my program of study, and theater became the center of my universe for about 20 years. It didn't start out as a passion. It started as a curiosity, but it became a passion. And it didn't stay a passion. I don't do theater anymore, and I don't miss it, but I value the time that I did it, the relationships I built while committing to that. And what I really appreciate is that curiosity led me there. And curiosity led me to other things that theater had opened the door for. And that's what curiosity can do for us. Following curiosity means that we can stay open to learning. It means that we are aware that we don't have all the information, we don't have all the perspectives. Curiosity reminds us that we don't have all the answers and that we are not who we are going to be yet. And I think curiosity can also help us approach other people with wonder. Who are you, and how did you become who you are? Curiosity can help us quell our own anxieties when we're facing new situations so that we can be brave enough to take risks, to learn new things. Curiosity leads us to art and discoveries we as a people might otherwise not have made. And so following curiosity with a foundation of reflection and intention can actually help us stay in alignment with our values. It can lead us to purpose, and even when purpose and passion change, curiosity is like that inner voice Parker Palmer talks about, that when we can hear it whisper saying, why don't we try this next? What'll happen if we do something new? Curiosity can help us to see how we might use our gifts in new and exciting ways. Curiosity is what led me to be here before you. And I'm very lucky with that. And I'm lucky, as some of us are, in that what I am now choosing to do for a living is so absolutely in alignment with also what I'm choosing to do to make a life. And while all of us at some point in our lives, either we will or we already have simply done work to survive, when we have time for reflection and intention and curiosity, that alignment can happen where we can really, really start to see how what we do for a living is part of how we are making our life. But what that takes is one more ingredient, and that is relationship. Accountable, loving relationships in the world. Because none of us can either make a living or make a life alone. In a variation on the Fisher-Price, what do you want to be when you grow up question, I used to ask my college students all the time in my advising sessions, what's your dream job? And I was really clear, this isn't about money, not about what you want to do to make a living, but if you could do anything and money was not a factor, what would you want to be doing? What do you dream about doing? And their answers were really varied as the people in front of me, as varied as the answers you all gave. I want to be a teacher. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a researcher and cure cancer. I just want to be a mother. To which I would always reply, there is no such thing as just being a mom. I want to be a gardener. I want to learn to cook. I want to love the world more. I had a student say that to me once. If I could do anything, I would just want to figure out how to love the world more. When she answered that to me, I actually stopped asking students what their dream job was and started asking them in some way, how do you want to love the world more? And my job didn't really make space for asking how you're going to love the world more. And it's when I knew I was going to have to shift my job so that I could actually focus on answering that question and helping other people to answer it. How will we love the world more? We're going to ask each other that over and over, WellSprings, for as long as we are together as a community. How are we loving the world to make a life? And over this message series, we are going to hear from members of this community about how you are making a living, how you are stumbling upon careers you never knew about, how it's in alignment with your values, how you find joy and purpose in it. And always, we're going to circle back to how we support each other in community, in relationship, because how we love the world more, as we already explored this year, is by loving each other. And so whether we have ended our careers of paid work, whether we never had paid work at all, whether we're just starting it, we want to think about how work fits into how we make a life. And we want to honor all the ways that we as a people individually make a living, and how we as a community are making a space for us to make meaning of that together. Our souls long for connection, long to be part of something bigger. We long to, yes, do work that is meaningful, to be a Fisher-Price person, and simultaneously to leave a painting on a cave wall so that someday somebody can say, oh, look at how these people lived. I am hopeful that in our time together, that we each have time to reflect, to be intentional, to foster our curiosity, and to let love flourish. And with that, will you enter into a moment of prayer with me, my friends? Spirit of life and love, we are gathered on this beautiful day, a community charged full with the charge of the soul, and we are grateful that we can support each other in making meaning out of this wild, precious life that we all have. Spirit, hold us all in love. Let our longing for connection be nurtured in this community and in the community beyond these walls. May we encounter in each person we meet a spark of the divine and a reflection of ourselves, and move with compassion and love, and let that be part of how we make a life. May it be so, and amen.
Please rise, whether in body or in spirit, and join us on this next song if you happen to know it. To be humble, to be kind, it is the giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. Treat each other and nothing more. To be bold, to be brave, it is the thinking that the heart can still be saved, and the darkness can come quick. The dangers in the anger and the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one. We are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. Tell me what it is that you see. A world that's filled with endless possibilities. Heroes don't look like they used to. They look like you do. We are love, we are one. We are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war. We are how we treat each other and nothing more. We are how we treat each other and nothing more. We are how we treat each other.
A different spot. So we extinguish this light, but we know that the source of its spark is always with us. And so we say together, as we release this flame from its faithful service today, we allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our paths today, tomorrow, and always. Friends, it is an honor to be making a life with each of you, and I hope that you can be inspired to reflect and be intentional and follow some curiosity this week. Let's have some more music. Thank you all.